Ethan Carter was 38, a successful CEO of a growing technology company. But behind the expensive suit and confident reputation was a single father who still packed his daughter Lily's lunch every morning. 6 years earlier, his wife had died suddenly after a medical emergency, leaving Ethan alone with a newborn baby and a grief he didn't know how to carry. He never remarried. Every decision he made afterward revolved around Lily. He built his company because he needed financial security for her, worked late because he wanted to create a future for her, and rejected every attempt by friends to set him up because he couldn't imagine bringing another woman into the fragile little family they had created. Lily had become his entire world, and Ethan was terrified that falling in love again would somehow betray the memory of the woman he had lost. Across town, Olivia Bennett was preparing for the most important wedding in her family. She was 34, the CEO of a luxury design company, fiercely independent, intelligent, and tired of being treated like a business asset rather than a human being. Her relatives constantly judged her for being single, especially because she was expected to appear at her cousin's wedding with someone impressive. Her grandmother had already arranged introductions with wealthy businessmen, and Olivia had politely escaped every one of them. She didn't want a man chosen because he looked good beside her. She wanted someone who understood that behind her success was a woman who sometimes felt desperately alone. Ethan and Olivia had known each other professionally for years. They had competed for contracts, attended the same conferences, and occasionally argued over business decisions. Neither had ever considered romance. That changed when Olivia found Ethan standing outside the wedding hall, looking exhausted while Lily clung to his hand. Olivia immediately noticed the sadness behind his smile. When Ethan explained that his family had been teasing him for years about arriving alone, Olivia made an impulsive suggestion. She would pretend to be his date for the wedding, and in return, he would help her survive her own family's relentless matchmaking. It sounded harmless. Two successful adults helping each other through one uncomfortable weekend. Ethan reluctantly agreed. For the first few hours, everything seemed like an ordinary performance. Olivia slipped her arm through Ethan's and smiled whenever relatives looked their way. Ethan introduced her as someone special, careful not to overdo the act. But Lily didn't understand that it was fake. She watched Olivia kneel beside her at the dinner table, cut her food into smaller pieces, fix the ribbon in her hair, and listen patiently as she described a drawing she had made at school. For the first time in years, Ethan saw his daughter laugh with a woman without fear or hesitation. He also noticed something frighteningly beautiful. Olivia wasn't pretending when she cared for Lily. Her kindness seemed effortless. As the evening continued, Ethan's carefully protected heart began to crack. Olivia noticed the tiny details nobody else ever saw. She noticed that Ethan checked Lily's temperature whenever she coughed, that he always kept an emergency snack in his jacket, and that he looked at his daughter before answering any question about himself. She realized that the intimidating CEO everyone feared was simply a father who had learned to become both parents at once. Ethan, meanwhile, discovered that Olivia wasn't the cold businesswoman people described. She secretly paid school fees for children from struggling families, visited her elderly aunt every Sunday, and kept handwritten notes from her late father inside her purse. Their fake relationship began feeling dangerously real. Then Ethan's mother, Margaret, arrived. She had watched her son live like a shadow of himself for years, and although she never pressured him openly, she had been waiting for the day when he would finally allow happiness back into his life. She watched Olivia kneel beside Lily and gently wipe a spot of frosting from the child's cheek. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. She knew immediately that something had changed. But the following morning, everything nearly collapsed. Olivia overheard Ethan's relatives discussing her, suggesting that she had only agreed to the arrangement because she wanted access to Ethan's business connections. One cruel comment claimed that no successful woman would genuinely want a widower with a child. Olivia quietly walked away before anyone could see the tears forming in her eyes. Ethan found her outside near the garden, but she refused to explain. He assumed she was embarrassed by the fake relationship and decided the safest thing was to end the arrangement after the wedding. What Ethan didn't know was that Margaret had already made a decision of her own. That afternoon, while the wedding guests prepared for the reception, Margaret secretly contacted the event coordinator and booked a surprise that would change everything. She reserved the small lakeside pavilion behind the venue, arranged hundreds of white flowers, ordered a simple family dinner, and asked the photographer to prepare a private photo session. But the biggest surprise wasn't the decorations. Margaret had discovered something about Olivia that even Ethan didn't know. Years earlier, after Ethan's wife had died, Olivia had anonymously donated money to a hospital fund that helped grieving families pay for counseling and childcare. She had never told anyone. She had never met Ethan at the time. She had simply helped because she understood what it meant to lose someone you loved. Margaret showed Ethan the old donation record that evening. He stared at Olivia across the reception hall, stunned. Suddenly, every small act of kindness made sense. She hadn't been attracted to his money or his position. She had been helping strangers long before she ever knew his name. When the music ended, Margaret led Ethan, Olivia, and Lily to the lakeside pavilion. Olivia expected another family confrontation, but instead she found a beautifully decorated table surrounded by warm lights. Margaret explained that she had booked the surprise because she wanted them to have one quiet place where nobody could judge them. Then she gave Olivia a small wooden box. Inside was a photograph of Ethan's late wife holding baby Lily, along with a handwritten note. It wasn't a warning or a test. It was a message welcoming Olivia into their lives if she truly wanted to be there. Olivia began to cry. She admitted that the fake dating arrangement had stopped feeling fake long before she was ready to acknowledge it. Ethan finally confessed that he had been terrified of loving someone again because losing his wife had taught him how painful love could become. Olivia took his hand and reminded him that love wasn't a promise that nothing would ever hurt. It was the courage to choose someone despite knowing life was unpredictable. Lily suddenly wrapped her arms around Olivia's waist, and that simple gesture broke whatever walls remained. Ethan looked at his daughter, then at the woman standing beside her, and realized that happiness had not entered his life by replacing the family he had lost. It had entered by making room for something new while keeping the old love safely in his heart. Months later, Ethan and Olivia returned to that same lakeside pavilion, but this time there was no fake date and no pretending. Their wedding was small, surrounded by the people who truly loved them. Lily carried the flowers. Margaret cried through the entire ceremony, and Ethan looked at Olivia with the peaceful expression of a man who had finally stopped running from his own happiness. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes that love can come after loss, and subscribe to Bright Acts. Your support helps these emotional stories reach people who may need a little hope today. And before we end, comment, "I believe in second chances," if you believe that sometimes the greatest blessings arrive, disguised as unexpected moments. Ethan once thought his life had ended the day he lost his wife. Olivia once believed success meant never needing anyone. Lily simply wanted a family that felt safe. None of them knew that one fake date would become the beginning of something real. Sometimes life doesn't give us back what we lost. Sometimes, with extraordinary kindness, it gives us something different, something we never knew we needed. And sometimes the greatest surprise isn't the person who walks into your life, but the courage to finally let them stay.